y a quelqu'un dans l'association qui n'est peut-être pas tout à fait honnête.
Si c'est un mytho, faut le dégager.
You keep everyone in the dark to maintain a balance. And you think you have succeeded.
We've not done one fun thing. Name one fun thing we've done.
Will Ferrell's road trip with his transgender best friend, a new thriller from Oscar-winning director Alfonso Cuarón, and a Marvel film set spoof. It's all time for a look at all the latest on the small screen. And for that, I'm joined by Diptyque Laurent. Hi, Diptyque.
Hi, Olivia.
Now, let's start with this French series, The Confidant. This is based on a true story from the Paris terror attacks in November 2015.
Yeah, that's right. It's called Une amie dévouée, or The Confidant in English. It's the first French series on the streaming platform Max. It's a mini-series of 4 episodes based on a book called The Mythomane, La Mythomane du Bataclan, The Mythomane of the Bataclan by Alexandre Kaufman. It follows the story of a woman who pretended to have survived the Bataclan Paris attacks in 2015, and she not only just befriended the victim groups, but she also had access to their solidarity funds. She eventually became a very prominent face for one of the groups, even being employed by one of the victims' associations. And then her story unravels. The series is quite true to the book. Some details have changed. For instance, in the book, the woman's name is Flo Kitty. She's called Christelle, or Chris, in the TV series. Take a look.
J'en peux plus de tes conneries de Bataclan. Je peux pas t'obliger à t'arrêter, mais je peux pas être ta complice.
Le mec à qui tu parles sur Facebook, je sais pas qui c'est. Ce que je vais te dire est extrêmement violent. On se fait manipuler depuis le début.
Ils ont besoin de moi. Ils s'en foutent de la vérité. Ce qu'ils veulent, c'est qu'on les aide. Tu comprends ça? Je suis utile.
So some very controversial material there. Some of the victims of the Bataclan attack have been speaking out about the show. What are their concerns here?
Well, it's interesting to note their reactions from some of the victims' associations. Sophie Parra, one such victim, told French media website France Info that fiction inspired by the attacks that isn't made by victims and serves to profit off their pain really made her feel uneasy. And she made a very pertinent point. She said that this series does essentially give that woman, Flo, who served 4.5 years in prison, the notoriety and fame that she was seeking in the first place.
But creatives haven't shied away from this subject, this event. There have been films and series made about it in the past. I remember there was the film starring Virginie Efira, Revoir Paris, or Paris Memories. That was quite well received, and plenty of others too.
Absolutely. You have on Netflix, November 13, Attacks on Paris, that gave voice to the survivors and first responders of that night. There was also Novembre, a film starring French actor Jean Dujardin about the French anti-terrorism unit that was tracking the terrorists, that sort of how they tracked the terrorists down in the very few days following the attack. And you also had Vous n'aurez pas ma haine, You Will Not Have My Hate, a film based on a book by Antoine Léris, who spoke about his grief after losing his wife in the Bataclan attacks.
That was a very moving account, the written account there. So what about this series? What do you make of it?
Well, I'll be honest, it is really difficult to watch. It's really, and for several reasons, it plunges you back into that terrible night and that very traumatic night. Also, I think the fact that it's really inspired by a true story makes this even more harder to watch, that these events actually happen, that this woman actually is psychologically unstable, that she sought to manipulate these victims who are already suffering. Great casting. Laura Calamy, you'll recognize her if you like the show Le 10%. Or Call My Agent. She's the assistant from that show. She is absolutely credible.
As always.
As always. She's absolutely captivating. And I think she really really conveys just how psychologically unstable this person was. And a really realistic reproduction of the events that night, the terror, the panic, the incomprehension. It's a fascinating, complex psychological thriller. Obviously, it's great TV content. My question was, the kind of question I was asking is, did it really need to be made? I'm not sure about that. I think victims might say otherwise. And I really do understand what the victims were saying about it, because you do get the feeling that it almost doubly victimizes the victims, first by the attacks itself, and second by this woman. And maybe they don't want to remember this very traumatic period in their lives.
So a difficult one to choose whether to watch or not. Well, moving on now. Kate Blanchett is the star of a new psychological drama on Apple TV+. This is called Disclaimer. It's directed by Oscar-winning Mexican filmmaker Alfonso Cuarón. It looks intriguing. Tell us more about it.
Well, actually, Kate Blanchett hasn't been on the small screen for about 4 years. The last series, and we talked about it on this show, was Mrs. America back in 2020, and she was very good in that. This is based on a book by Renee Knight of the same name. Now, Kate Blanchett plays Catherine Ravenscroft. She's this respected investigative reporter. Her work leads her to uncover secrets, but then she's sent a book in which clearly she is the protagonist and her deepest, darkest secrets are coming to light, and she has to race against time to protect those who she loves from these secrets. It also stars Sacha Baron Cohen as her doting husband and Kevin Kline as the villain, so to speak, the man trying to take her down. Take a look.
You've not been honest with us. The man turns up here with a book he has written. You harassed him, you threatened him.
He's the one threatening me.
Stephen, I know you're there.
How can you sleep at night?
You don't deserve us. The world needs to know who Catherine Ravenscroft really is. The world needs to know the truth.
So Kate Blanchett seems to have developed a taste for playing these villains recently. It looks very slick, very stylish. It's a visual treat, clearly. What did you make of the show more globally?
Well, absolutely. Gorgeous cinematography. And you feel like you're watching a film almost, and you could see a bit of it there. You really see how Alfonso Cuarón put his Oscar-winning talent to good use in this show. And the secret is really revealed through piecemeal, through various flashbacks at different times in the past. One thing I found really weird, there's this weird third-person narration where Kate Blanchett's character is talking about her character, but in the third person. It was very jarring. Otherwise, the setting is beautiful. There's this gorgeous house, beautifully filmed flashbacks, this idyllic Italian holiday setting. It's all very nice, but the whole icy, cold, waspy wife with a doting husband and secrets and all of that, it feels very familiar. I feel like we just spoke about it not too long ago with Nicole Kidman in a similar role. It feels a bit formulaic. It feels like we've seen it before. And despite the stellar Oscar-winning cast, it failed to shine for me, sadly.
Okay, so not original enough
No.
for you, Deepsy. Well, next to something that does certainly sound original, a new documentary by Will Ferrell, which sheds a very personal light on being transgender.
Yeah, that's right. It's called Will and Harper. It's out on Netflix. Will Ferrell's best friend of 3 decades and Saturday Night Live collaborator tells him nonchalantly by email, no less, that she has transitioned into a woman and her name is now Harper. So to process that development, he decides to go on a U.S. road trip with her, visiting a lot of their old familiar haunts to see how people react to her now being a woman.
Okay, well, let's take a look then at Will and Harper, which is on Netflix.
This is probably around the age where I started to feel just kind of weird.
Yeah.
I used to come out to these kind of places before, and then I transitioned and I got a little afraid. You know what I'm saying? Enjoy it. Come out.
I'm not really afraid of these people. I'm afraid of hating myself. All I want to do is live.
Oh, Dunkin' Donuts.
No.
You know what I really loved about this was it raises a very interesting point. How does your relationship change when you transition? Are you a different person? Are you still the same person? The series is really poignant. It's really moving. It's very touching. It's also deeply awkward at times, thanks to Will Ferrell, who point blank asks his friend what it's like to have breasts. Is she going to get genital reconstruction? So it's very raw. But that's what makes it really charming. And to her credit, Harper is gracious. She's understanding. She really seeks to answer every question that people have for her. And, you know, at a time when transgender rights, particularly for minors in the U.S., is being repealed, it really debunks tropes and stereotypes about transgender people. It also offers a valuable insight into how to better integrate them into society. And, what's nice is it's never preachy, it's never too earnest. It hits just the right tone to make it enjoyable but informative.
So an important social question with built-in comedy from Will Ferrell.
Exactly.
Obviously. Well, finally from you, a new meta-satire from Hollywood by the genius minds behind the series Veep. That's Armando Iannucci, I presume.
Yes, that's right. I loved Veep. It was one of my favorite shows. Armando Iannucci is perhaps best known to TV series lovers as the genius behind Veep, the satirical Emmy award-winning White House comedy. He's back alongside John Brown, who was also a writer on Veep and Succession, and Sam Mendes. They're putting that satire to good use in this new series. It's generically called The Franchise, but we know which franchise they're skewering. It's very clearly the sets of Marvel superhero films. The franchise.
I did have a suspicion that it might be them.
Yeah, exactly. But they never ever say it, so I think they cover themselves like that. It stars Himesh Patel as this sort of harried first assistant director of a new film set that's not going to plan at all. The actual director, Eric, who's played by German-Spanish actor Daniel Bruhl, most recently seen in the Lagerfeld biopic, is he plays this character who's busy basically doing nothing, like making sure there's product placement and being art house and, being very inefficient in general. Look, it might not have the finesse and the sharp insight of Veep, but it's a fun ride through a bumpy Hollywood production with a slew of ego-driven characters. I think it really satisfies our need to see Hollywood, not at its best, but perhaps at its worst, and make fun of it along the way. So it's a good ride.
Okay, superheroes, warts and all. Then it has had mixed reviews, so we'll let you decide for yourself. Here's a clip of the franchise out this month on HBO. But thank you very much, Deepti, for that roundup this week. Do check in with us next time here on Arts 24 for more small screen news and more arts and culture too.
We must shoot. We will shoot.
Hey Siri, read new messages.
We need to talk about the divorce. I don't care if you're busy with your shitty movie for masturbating fuck nerds. Crying face emoji, crying face emoji, crying face emoji.
What a day.